Hey there, podcast listeners, and welcome to another episode of Not For Profit, podcast where we talk to different people from all walks of life about their path to purpose and the struggles to get there. So, today's episode, we talked to my friend Frank, who is actually a biologist, and he works on plant genetics and is a researcher at a major institution. And he has recently become connected with Gaia, or the earth energy, and now he seems to talk to plants, and it's something that's been startling and scary and profound for him, and he shares that journey with us, and we talk about a lot of things. We don't get into all of it, but we're gonna have him on again to talk again, and just enjoy the episode. All right, let's get started. So you smoked New Year's?
I did.
For the first time in a long time?
In a while, yeah. Not a while. Maybe like a month. But I'm not really like an avid.
Yeah. Oh, no.
No. I never really have been.
Or like a...
Just an avid smoker, really. I mean, like, like I would just,
Some average smokers, like, every day, once.
Yeah, no. Like, I would just, like, maybe, like, once or twice a week.
Okay.
Like, was, like, the most frequent
Right.
periods, But lately, it's really... I've never sought, like, buying weed. I've never actually bought weed or any really drug to begin with. It's always, like, kind of presents itself to me, and it's like, oh, yeah, cool. Let's try it. Oh, yeah, why not? So, like, my roommate, he's every day, like, wake and bake kind of guy.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Okay.
But, so he's like, New Year's Eve, he's like, dude, come on, you haven't smoked in a while. Let's just smoke a little bit. And I already had a few drinks, and I'm like, yeah, sure, you know what? New Year's Eve, whatever. Let's do it. Like, let's just smoke a little bit. So I just had like a little...
So you were just at home?
Just at home.
For New Year's?
My own apartment. Yeah, so I threw a party with some friends.
Oh, so there was people?
Yeah, there was people there. Yeah, so I was like...
In Jersey?
In Jersey, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know how, like, social I could be smoking. So I'm like, but, because I've been trying to gauge it lately, sometimes I've just been like, I just get comatose. I get really head high, and then I just lay there, and I'm just like, oh my God, the room is either spinning, or, like, what's happening? But, this was cool. I was able to, like, really connect with people and interact with people, but I got into this weird, like, philosophical conversation naturally, right, with two of my friends.
Okay.
And we started.
I thought you were gonna say with yourself.
No. That came later.
Okay.
And we just started talking about like either religion or philosophy, and I don't really honestly remember all the specifics.
Okay.
But we started talking about light, and like how a lot of like either like, I don't know, religions, philosophies, whatever we're kind of on the topic about, we're talking about light. And that, like, for me, like, I just drew into that. And I drew into, like, the optimism of light, like,
yes,
as a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, well, how come, like, I noticed, like, there's a trend that everything sort of, like, the message of, like, a lot of things is, like, grow towards the light type of thing. And that's been a real big, like, mantra for me.
Yeah.
And my whole plant rebirth.
Right.
And like, I don't know, when I was talking about it, so like right now, like the words are escaping me. Honestly, I don't remember the words, because now thinking back to how I felt, my feet were like rooted into the ground when I was talking about like
try not to
light. Sorry,
yeah.
And I just felt like all of a sudden I was saying like, yeah, there's like hope and love and light, and like that's like the main message of everything, like all is love is all type of mantra that you and I have talked about quite a bit. And I was kind of just spewing like all of that to them. They were just like, whoa, that's so cool, man.
Oh, okay.
But as I was doing it, I felt like I was being like sucked into the ground, and like there was like exchanges of information through my feet, like a plant. I was rooted into the ground, and like I wish I remembered like the details of the conversation. And that's probably alcohol clouding a little bit of my brain, but like the most profound thing to me was at the time, right? Because New Year's Eve, this was like 2 a.m. Like I was completely partying, smoked a little weed, like, and I was just like going full on like drunkenly stoned rambling about light and love. But while I was doing it, I was just like so grounded at the same time, and I just like we got to one point where like I was finally conscious of it, and I'm like, oh my God, my feet really hurt, and I had to like pick my feet up, and like I felt like lighter doing it, but then I would put my foot down again, and I started talking a little bit more, and then I felt like sucked into the floor again almost, like It's really crazy to have that really bizarre, like, rooted feeling just from smoking a little bit of a plant.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
I went to a Christmas dinner.
Okay.
And it was like very awkward because my friend invited me because she was cooking, but the host was a woman we fired.
Okay.
Okay, so it was like super, super duper awkward. She also, I could tell, she didn't expect me to be there. But it was very amicable anyway, because I was just helping. I was being helpful and friendly, and it was instantly amicable. But they were smoking, and I got high, and I kind of stopped smoking.
Right.
But I'll smoke in public settings or whatever.
Right.
And yeah, I got into some rant near the end of the night. Well, I didn't drink that much though, but I was smoking, and I started talking about the beauty of existence, the miracle of existence,
Right.
the improbability of us being here, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it just got everyone. It just took everybody's like kind of attention and made people feel. It felt very New Year's, even though it was like Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of similar conversation. But when I have these conversations, I feel like I'm floating out into space.
Okay.
Like I'm dying almost.
Right.
When I talk about that kind of stuff, because I'm convinced I'm dead. I've talked about this. Like I'm convinced in multiple ways I'm already dead. I'm sort of just happen to be walking around.
Right. I have the total opposite. Like I'm always, like you've mentioned this theme of like always like floating or like going up or like, ascending almost with your, types of conversations we have with each other. But for me, it's always been like grounding, really pulling me like towards like something beneath me almost, and that's all kind of really bizarre.
Well, I would say like, so plants are rooted, but they're always pushing up, right?
Right.
And they look almost like a brainstem or mycelium, or they have that same kind of pattern.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess you're drawing from the earth or Gaia.
Right, something.
Like, you know about the Gaia concept, right?
Somewhat. I mean, I know the term.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say...
What does the term mean to you?
To me?
Yeah.
Gaia. I mean, like, it's like source, right? I mean, to me, kind of is like the simplest way to put it.
Yeah.
Like the source of everything type of... Without getting too, like, I don't know.
But Gaia is also supposedly related to Earth.
Right.
The spirit of the Earth.
Right.
And the Earth as the mother.
Yeah.
It's a womb. And we are, like, existing in it. So, like, but source can be, like, in space. It's like source can be...
Right. Source
Gaia
can be
is very Earth.
Very Earth related.
Yeah.
I see.
So it's like the idea that the Earth is this living organism.
Yeah. And
that sustains us, and it's our mother.
Right.
And it's this energy field, too.
Totally. Yeah.
And, yeah, you're the most connected to Gaia that I've ever met of anyone, really.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even mean that as a compliment or anything. It's more like, that's just what it is. Like,
right.
Because other people, they're like, they want, this class, like, they use a lot of human creations to tap into their spirituality and to tap into source.
Right.
But it's very human constructs like tarot, astrology, in that space. That's not really Gaia.
Right.
Reiki, like all that stuff. That's all human constructs.
Yeah, I've never really...
And Gaia is more just of the earth.
Right.
And you seem to be drawing energy directly from the earth in a way that I've never witnessed.
Kind of sounds like it to me too, which kind of scares me sometimes. But like, it's cool. But yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. And I've had a lot of people recently tell me, oh, you have a very grounding energy, like stuff like that. Things that I've never really been aware of before about myself. And now people have been telling me this. And I'm just like, wait, what? Really? I never really thought of myself that way. And I don't know. I've had this really weird draw to plants, wearing green. At one point...
Always? That was always?
No, never, man.
No, never.
Right? So, I work with plants.
Yeah,
for a
right.
living, as a research scientist.
Yeah.
And I remember in my undergraduate education in biology, I took a course, and you take like, a class and you get the broad scope of biology, and there was a section on plants.
Right.
And I remember specifically saying to myself and my friends, like, oh man, plants like are so boring, like it's so complicated and so weird, like I'll never work with plants. I literally said the words, I'll never work with plants. Look at me now. I'm working with plants.
How many years ago was that?
That was, oh man, I must have been like a sophomore in college. That was probably like 2012, maybe, right? So like it's like 9, 10, I don't know. I can't do math. What year is it? It's 2020, isn't it?
Yeah, 2020.
But yeah, 2012.
Wow.
Eight
Yeah.
years ago.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So plants are bullshit.
Yeah, I was just like that. And now when I started grad school, one of the labs that interested me the most worked with plants. And I didn't really think back to that moment at that point, because that was just a really immature thing to say.
Yeah,
I guess
right,
silly,
right.
You know, never say never.
Because you're 12. And,
Yeah.
I mean, 2012 is 2012.
Well,
and you're young.
Right. And I was really interested in the science this lab was doing, and then started working with plants, and I was like, whoa, plants are really, really cool. And a lot of the work that the lab was doing had such a direct impact to, like, not only science, right? Like, so you can advance science. There's science that advances science only, right? And then there's science that will advance science and also advance something in humanity, right? And that's what they call Pasteur's quadrant. Because think about Louis Pasteur, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the work he did with pasteurization really was revolutionary to science,
Right.
But also helped humanity so much, because without him we wouldn't have juices, and especially milk, right? Milk, everybody says pasteurized milk.
Right.
So his work revolutionized like both science and humanity.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Pasteur, but I'm sure somebody else would have discovered it. But he was the first, right? And he did it early, and thankfully he did it. So the lab that I joined when I was a graduate student, that was like one of the selling points to me, was like, the work we do has like a direct correlation to advancing, humanity,
impact,
like through feeding people,
Yeah.
finding ways to sustainably grow
Right.
plants without, killing the earth in the process by over fertilizing. And for me, that was like, oh wow, that's really cool. I can do both, but I'm really here to just like learn science and get a diploma and figure out what's next. That was like my motive going into it. And then
Right.
once I got immersed in it, I was like, whoa, I want to stay here. And I
Yeah.
stuck around, and I've been in that lab for 3.5 years now, almost 4. And I don't really plan on leaving academic science anytime soon, because I really love just, going to work, doing my science, and I can have a crappy day at work, but having the knowledge that there's going to be this impact, it's a huge problem that there's many labs in this field working on, but knowing that like what I'm doing is chipping away really, really, really tiny, really one little, pipette at a time at this big issue that, humanity will face at one point. Whether or not it has an actual impact or not, I don't know, but we're trying. And I know I'm moving in that direction, and that's what's cool to me.
So I might have a bias about this, but so I studied philosophy and literature and storytelling and stuff like that, and then I was an atheist until last year.
Okay.
Basically, right? But I really focused my intellectual faculties on academics and such, and then I entered, the spiritual world. But I was always tapping into it, but I always thought it was my overactive imagination. I always thought,
right,
what an imagination. But because I came from that framework first, then entered the spiritual, and I'm just guessing, I don't want to label anything, but you kind of went a similar path where you're not like, oh, I love trees, I love plants first,
no.
And then, you go for the study, and then you're entering like almost a spiritual realm-ish now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely trying to figure out, with somewhat of a scientific approach,
Yes.
but also really not at the same time,
Yeah, right.
what this whole spiritual realm is, especially related to plants. Considering I know, I'm not a botanist. I studied biology, and I just happen to work with plants. So I know about more of the basic biology, genomics, DNA type of things, rather than, identification of all these plants and everything. But, understanding like sacred plant medicine and spirituality is totally on my radar for things to master and understand 2020 and beyond. That's kind of like my New Year's resolution, if you will, like to learn more about that aspect of plants.
I think what I'm getting at is that because we came from, like, we didn't start woo, we entered woo, right?
Right.
We may be more effective communicators.
Maybe
for spreading the message to more people than normal.
I see what you mean.
Right. So if we started woo and then we just went at it like I guess person that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, especially if you said you came from an atheist perspective. I come from more of a scientific perspective. I never fully considered myself an atheist. I always kind of wanted to believe there's some sort of God or higher power or source type of thing out there. I always wanted to believe that because it helped me sleep at night, right? And that's kind of what people need at the end of the day. I guess people, if you wanted to label it, people would say hopeful agnostic is kind of where I came from, but obviously I was always skeptical. As a scientist, you kind of need to see proof for things, right? You don't just have blind faith. But yeah, we kind of both entered that woo realm from similar perspectives, and yeah, it's interesting to see. I'm really still trying to find the right vocabulary to talk about some of the experiences I've had with this whole spirituality, quote unquote woo realm of things that I've experienced, and it's tough because sometimes I'll just really sit there and be like, what is happening?
Yeah. It's very destabilizing.
Yeah, and I'm just I don't want to think I'm going nuts, but that could totally be possible. I don't know, you know what I mean?
Carl Jung, right? Mm-hmm. He wrote this thing called the Red Book. He went into a period where, so when people look at the Red Book, he wrote it from after he had a split with Freud. So they used to be colleagues, and then they had a split, and they were sort of didn't like each other, right? There was a feud, kind of. He wrote this thing called the Red Book, where it's images of his unconscious mind and spirits and gods, and he wrote these insane things, right? And when academics looked at it, the book itself, they were like, "Oh, this is a person entering having a psychotic break." However, contemporaneous accounts of him as an individual in that period was he's completely stable, totally has a normal job, nothing is crazy about him at all.
Right.
It was just the book itself. When they look at the book, in itself, they think it's a psychotic break, but he was completely rational, right?
Right.
And then he also said, near the end of his life, in the 50s, that the Red Book was a foundation of everything. Everything he created after, all of his theories and everything, was triggered by the Red Book.
Interesting. And
it's wild. It looks like a wizard's handbook that he made. It's got paintings. He originally did it on this paper that wasn't holding the paint and ink enough, so he had to get a special book, red bound book, and he would paint paintings and draw in calligraphy with Latin and writing spells almost. And this is Carl Jung, who's a reputable source of for psychotherapy and thought. So that's interesting. And for me, actually, I always got signs and visions and dreams, and spirit world was always contacting me. I was denying it. Mm-hmm. I was just straight up denying it because I saw how religion crippled people emotionally. It made them weaker. It gave away their agency in life.
Right.
Spirituality, I have found often, was people were giving away their agency. And I hated that because I always thought agency and existentialism and your ability to be powerful is something within. Mm-hmm. And when you give agency to some other being, like the Christian God,
right,
it diminishes you. It diminishes your capabilities, your potential. And so I always thought, religion was anathema to growth, right?
Right.
And then I just couldn't deny it anymore. And now I've merged everything I've learned about empowerment through philosophy, and then I realized Buddhism existentialism and Buddhism almost come to the same conclusions,
right?
Which is absurd, and even the sciences are entering this gray area where it's so confusing and unknown, and that's sort of it reminds me of Taoism so much. And now I'm like, and then the more I study the shamans and spiritual figures of the past, I realize like I went through all of that shit. So I found out recently, culturally, shamanism is a universal cultural phenomenon.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it happens in Afghanistan and sub-Saharan Africa and South America and Korea.
Okay.
All shamans. So, and they all have similar threads, right? Usually, you get really sick when you're a kid.
Okay.
And you trip the fuck out. Just being sick.
Just being sick.
Yeah, like near death, sick.
Right.
You trip balls, and then someone in the community recognizes that you are gifted.
Okay.
And you can speak to spirits.
Interesting.
Then you're mentored. Then you learn how to harness these energies or these abilities to speak to spirit world. And then you help people in the community with their questions about the future and whatever, like.
Right.
But you also don't take money for it.
Of course.
So I thought, I was told in my visions not to take money for it. But everyone, even to this day, everyone's like, why aren't you taking money for it? Why aren't you taking money?
Right.
But that's actually an American, European phenomenon.
Oh no, it's
the
totally
idea that we need
American,
to make money off
capitalist-fueled theory.
But around the world, the true shaman, they don't take money. They have to actually get regular jobs. They actually have to still get jobs, be normal people. And then when someone has a serious problem, they're like, oh, this guy, he's the guy that is a shaman actually, and then they go to the guy. So shamans have sort of lived these dual lives. They're not just full-time shaman. Almost none of them are full-time shaman.
Right.
Only in America and Europe, which was so, in Korea now, but Korea became so capitalist. But that was so heartening to learn, because I was feeling that a lot of people were like, why aren't you getting money? Why aren't you getting paid? And I'm like, but I was told don't do that. I was specifically told not to do that.
That's really cool that you were told that too,
I was told that. Yeah. And I was tempted recently.
But I feel like, I know you. I feel like that's just you though. Whether or not you were told that, you don't seem like the kind of guy that would just think to do that anyway.
Well, so part of the psychological rationality behind not taking money is because it's a gift that you're given.
Right.
And you're given this gift to serve humanity. It's about serving. It's not about gaining riches.
Yeah.
Ever. It's only like, for some reason you're blessed with this ability, help people, because you don't. Oh, and then also later on during your training you go through an ego death. This is also universal. And your level of consciousness expands. You have an expanded level of consciousness. Right. And then you live your regular life. So it's like, I think when you become a shaman, you're really tapped into spirit world, you're generally more at ease with reality anyway, like the true nature of reality. Right. So like everyone around you is just kind of suffering. So you just want to help, and to make money off of that is just so strange. All right. So before you went to your first ceremony, right?
Right.
Were you were still just a hopeful agnostic?
Yeah, if you really want to label it that way, sure. Yeah, no. So I didn't mean to come across like that. But I really don't know the labels.
You knew about people that did this stuff.
Yeah, I knew of people through a strong connection of mine. And
but what made you bite the bullet and finally explore it?
It certainly made it easier knowing somebody who's done it and being able to pick their brain a bit. I've always been curious person. I've always been curious, and in college, I never really experimented with psychedelics until later in life. I never did any psychedelics in college or high school or anything like that. It was always after college, after grad school even.
Wait, but you did other things before the Aya?
No, mushrooms once, literally once.
And it was it
was wild. It was cool.
A large dose.
Yeah, it was a good dose.
Do you know what dose it was?
Nah,
you don't remember.
I was at Burning Man, man.
Oh, you're at Burning Man.
It was at Burning Man, and I pretty much had this really cool experience. I kind of just melted into a beanbag and listened to a lot of really deep house music.
Okay.
And saw these really cool lights that weren't really there, but were there. And I just felt like a total atmosphere shift. And I also got this really interesting, cool sense of just groundedness. So once again, that was probably the first experience I had with truly feeling like I was sucked into the ground, but like one with it there, and just like such a strong force just comfortably keep pulling me tighter to the ground. It wasn't like, I didn't feel like I was being sucked in. I didn't feel like I was, like just like pressed up against something uncomfortably. I was just like, whoa, I feel a lot more close to the ground right now. And
what I love
pretty
about
cool
this
with that.
is that the grounding is so much freeing.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, like,
totally,
so like,
yeah.
like, because that kind of language can sound kind of constricting, but
Right.
for you, was freeing you.
I was totally cool with it, man.
Yeah.
It was totally a wild experience to feel like that.
Yeah.
And now I'm aware of that feeling more often, or like at other points in my life when I'm really maybe thinking about something, meditating now, which is something I definitely need to do more often, but I will have grounding type experiences when I meditate, which is pretty cool. It's like I'm comfortable with it now. Not like I was uncomfortable with it, right? I'm just like, oh yeah, this is happening again. Nice.
Yeah.
I feel good.
Okay, so you did the Burning Man.
Right.
And then you went to the fall ceremony.
Right, so I tried ayahuasca for the first time. Going into it with not really knowing what to expect, but I felt that it was good. Like, to not have any sort of expectations. Obviously, it had intentions, but my intentions were pretty just blank.
Yeah.
I wanted to go, I'm like, I want to be a better person, right? I was actually looking for maybe a little bit more, like, purpose or, like, drive for, like, what I want to achieve in life. For me, I want to do something that has an impact. Whether it's little or big, it doesn't need to be huge.
Yeah.
I don't want to go out there like, oh, I'm going to save the world.
Right.
That'd be awesome, obviously.
Sure.
And why not strive for that? But also be realistic with my capabilities. But maybe learn what my true capabilities are.
Right.
Maybe learn, I have a new voice or like a new set of, I don't know, skills, or just gain more confidence in myself, but also the direction I was going in. Which none of that really was clear to me at first.
Yeah.
Or honestly, even until after
Right.
my first experience ended with it, where I was truly like, whoa, yeah, no, I'm so confident in the direction my life is going now, and I feel great. And then you start noticing maybe little like synchronicities start to happen when you feel like you're on the right path. You're like, oh no, I think that kind of happens for a reason. But then you start thinking that way, and I don't want to drive myself too crazy. Like, oh no, that happened for this reason, and that happened for this reason. So I try and stay as, not to keep using this word, but I'm going to, grounded as possible, right? With my concept of whatever reality is, because that was certainly shaken a lot during this experience. Yeah. But yeah, so it was good to know somebody who's done it before, to pick their brain, but I felt like I was always called to it in some sort of way, whether it was just doing scientific research, coming across the effects of DMT on the brain, and then coming across like... You
came across that research before your ceremony?
Yeah, before ceremony.
How did it come across? Like, how did it just land? Like, how did you come across it?
Honestly, just Googling drugs on, like, Wikipedia.
Okay.
Because I was taking, like, a psychology course, which... Psychology was never really my thing in college.
Right.
I was more biology.
Yeah.
Or, toxicology
courses.
But
you tend to have a deeper understanding of the
how
information
it works.
when it's out there.
What's that?
Of the information and why it, or the mechanism.
Right. I was really interested in, like, the mechanism. Like, what does this chemical do?
Right.
And it's truly beautiful and crazy how our bodies produce DMT naturally.
Yeah.
And our pineal gland, right? At low concentrations, like super low compared to what, is experienced in an ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah.
And the chemistry behind it, if you want me to go into it, I don't know.
Yeah, do it. I mean, I think this is what people actually want to know, especially people that have never done it. They want to understand.
Right. And I've kind of fathomed it through, like, I rationalized it, like, okay, this is safe to do from a scientific level because of this, right? If you're in the right environment with the right people like proper shaman, proper ceremony is the proper way to do it. Don't just try and go to the jungle, collect plants, and make your own brew, because that's how people get hurt or get like serotonergic syndrome and die or But I wrap my head around it that way first. Like, okay, this is something to try because you're going to be safe. So, like I said, like your brain produces it in your pineal gland, low concentrations.
Right.
And it's definitely a mysterious molecule, definitely a mysterious part of your brain too, the pineal gland. Just because you can't really study DMT easily in like clinical trials in this country. There's some work done in Brazil, maybe, I think, but it wasn't too much. Through typical like psychedelic studies, like trying to cure addiction, or what was another one? Mostly like addiction studies or depression, right? Addiction or depression studies, with which you see now people doing more studies with psilocybin doing it. But essentially, DMT will bind to the same receptors in your brain that serotonin does. 5-hydroxytryptamine, which is serotonin. They bind to the same receptors. And the molecules look very, very similar. Very, very similar. Except, there's one little like functional organic chemistry group at the end of it that changes the way that the electricity in your brain flows. And that's essentially what's happening. It's just changing the electricity in your brain. And there was a study, and we briefly talked about it before, that through, was it UCL, University College of London? Imperial College of London? Imperial College. That they showed how the electricity in your brain changes under DMT. They gave people small doses of it and hooked up electrodes to their brain, and they noticed that parts of your brain that don't really work with each other are lighting up at the same time, and you're creating this neuronal plasticity between the right side of your brain, the left side of your brain that don't always talk to each other, and now they kind of have a gap, and they can more often say, hey, what's up to each other, and it changes the way you think a little bit. I don't want to say it completely shapes the way you think. That was kind of always there, but it certainly has an interesting impact because of your brain's ability to have plasticity. But yeah, it works on the same receptors as serotonin. And the reason ayahuasca lasts so long is because there is something called a monoamine oxidase inhibitor in it, which will prevent your body from breaking down DMT or serotonin. So if people who just smoke DMT normally, right? Like Joe Rogan always talks about just how he's never tried ayahuasca, which is actually fascinating. Yeah. He's just smoked DMT, and that lasts maybe like...
Oh, you know that for sure? He never tried it?
Last I checked, right. But he always talks about it. He always has people on his show that have done it. He does it, right?
I know.
But he always talks about how he smokes it, and it lasts maybe like 10 or 15 minutes. But that's because there's no MAOI, monoamine oxidase inhibitor, that's in there. So his body's just recycling it and digesting it.
That's why it's so
right.
fast.
So that's why ayahuasca experiences last maybe in human time, right? Or human concept of time, like 5 or 6 hours. Yeah. So, but I mean,
like psilocin.
Psilocybin experiences can last quite a while too. I don't really know the chemistry of why that lasts so long. I mean, our bodies probably our bodies.
I heard
not as good
I heard it's very similar to what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's very much like serotonin.
Right. Serotonin, psilocybin, and DMT they actually all act on the same receptors. Yeah. Psilocybin is the closest you can get to DMT, I think, without like having an ayahuasca experience, I guess, or a DMT experience. So they're closely related, but I don't know. I guess if you want to get into the whole woo side of it, they're two different spirits, right? One comes from a fungus, one comes from a plant, and I don't know. I have to get more experience with the fungus side of things, I guess.
I mean, I have definitely had like ayahuasca type experiences on. So I've done psilocybin so many times, right? But on only like 3 occasions, I had like a very ayahuasca like experience. Yeah, and that's super high dose. Okay. So you just the more, there's a point where you're gonna and it doesn't give you what you want. So LSD is more, people find that it's more, you can control it better.
Okay. It's like I've never done LSD actually.
Oh yeah, LSD is more, it's just the plant ones, like the fungus and the plants, they're not controllable. You can't, like, the experience happens to you.
Right.
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 And if it goes dark, it goes dark. And you learn from it, but it goes there, and you have no control over it. Whereas LSD, from what anecdotally people say, it's more controlled. You can kind of
interesting
hold it better, control it better.
Right.
But according to a lot of things I've read, the plants you can't really. You'll never. It's humbling. Yeah. Let's say, yeah.
Yeah, I've certainly, in my ayahuasca experience, could not control where she was taking me. And that was cool and not cool, because at times it was just like, oh, I felt like I was a baby at one point. I'm like, oh, like, so coddled, like, in a crib, and, like, a little, like, mobile above me, and I was just like, oh my god, like, I feel like I'm, like, baby again, and I just felt, like, so warm and great, and then, like, it was gone. And then I'm like, wait, where'd it go? Now I feel darkness. Now I feel empty. Wait, no, go back. I want to go back. No, I can't. I had no control over it. And then I went to some weird dark place, and I was just like, oh man, to be a kid again. But yeah, absolutely no control.
You know, I had a similar thing, except I was at the bottom of a well, like a well or a prison kind of thing.
Okay.
And I felt love and bliss, and I saw light at the top, but it was a horrible condition. So it was like both. It was like feeling both the darkness and the light.
But you were like at the bottom of the well, rock bottom. But you could see light.
You could see light, but I felt the bliss of, like, that exists at all times, no matter how dark it gets.
Right.
I just think if you can end binary thinking, you know, if you can kind of stay more or be very comfortable with non-binary thinking,
right,
you just gain more and more and more from the experience.
That resonates a lot with me, because a lot of the struggles that I've had in almost all of the experiences I've had with it have been struggling between binary thinking and, you know, right and wrong and light and dark and every single duality you can possibly imagine. Like, I go there and I, like, go from one end to the other. It's like, well, why can't we always be, like, you know, good and love each other? And it's like, oh, you wouldn't appreciate it. You know, like the typical duality struggles that, you know, we think of almost every day, but this was, like, really amplified, and I, like, found myself, like, bouncing back and forth between the two of them, and I torment myself mentally almost. And so, you know, I don't really become at peace until I find that, like, that center.
Yeah.
And I kind of just ignore the whole two ends of the spectrum thing and just really just focus on just breathing and being there in the center, because that's when I really get overwhelmed in my experiences and my journeys. And always have been told, if you ever feel like that, just breathe and focus on your breathing. I have that mantra that, you know, love is all is love, and I will kind of, like, repeat that and just breathe, and that kind of keeps me centered and calmed down again. But it's easy for me to just, like, snap into it and then go right back and have that pendulum swing really, really far back and forth rapidly, you know? And it's funny, I was almost, like, taught in the medicine. So when I've taken the medicine before, in my first experience, I was really just, like, making all these crazy gestures with my hands.
Right.
And then I'm like, what's happening to me? And then I realized, like, wait, this isn't me. This is whatever is in me. This is, you know, Pachamama, Mother Earth, you know, Grandmother Ayahuasca, whatever other people call it. You know, I really felt it was her, right? I really felt it was like a feminine presence with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't see her. I felt it, though, and I heard a voice, which, quite honestly, was really cool because it sounded like my voice. Or it didn't even sound like a voice. It was just words appeared in my head. And I learned through those words, and I also learned through the gestures that she taught me. So if something really resonated with me, like a song during the ceremony, I would, like, beat my chest, like, right over my heart, and I'd kind of drum with it. And that was one of the first things. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I don't know this song, but I'm really grooving with it, type of thing. And then this is where that whole pendulum thing kind of comes in. I was, like, really freaking out, and I was kind of moving my hand above my chest right and left and right and left. Meanwhile, I'm laying on the ground and I'm really doing these really crazy hand movements, and I'm like, I really hope I don't smack somebody, because I was going nuts with it. And as I was bouncing between those dualities, and like I would calm down and my hand would stop, and I was kind of taught like always just find your center, type of thing, through that gesture. And it was really all through gestures, and I really learned that like there's so much communication that we can have with the world around us just through like that transcends words. Just feeling gestures, and just doing that gesture really kind of solidified that feeling within me.
I was talking to a friend today about Molly, my friend Molly, but I was telling her like the horror of a wolf like ripping through an animal,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and eating, and like the horror of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's there, but that horror, these wolves ultimately allow nature to flourish. You know these experiments where they introduce wolves into environment,
like an ecosystem.
yeah, and
right.
then suddenly the ecosystem thrives,
Right.
because of the wolves.
Right, like the apex predator. I don't know if that's typically an apex predator, but right, in ecology, that wolves are sometimes either like birds of prey, right, are like pillars for these ecological success. Because you remove it, then some other species will grow like rapidly, right? Like say, I don't know, like rabbits, and then because it's out of balance, like, you know, they'll eat another major part of the ecosystem, and it ultimately will kill it because it destroys a resource for something else.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you need this sort of competition all the time in an ecosystem for it to.
But the horror allows the beauty. It's
Right.
like beautiful tragedy. Like, and that Taoism. So I feel like Tao it seems so like light and everything, but people are trying to grapple with the horrors of modern existence now.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think the Tao. I think it does grapple with the horrors. It's just people have been framing it so lightly, but if we can like cope with the idea that horror and beauty are one, and that
Mm-hmm.
it just helps a lot, and people just have a hard time grappling with that concept because they just want everything to look pretty and
Right.
feel good and
Right.
be nice. Yeah.
It doesn't work that way though.
No, it doesn't work that way, and it's not reality, and it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, that's my criticism of the spiritual movements right now, the New Age movements, is that they're so hyper positive that I feel they're negating, you know, the horrors. And
Right.
the horrors are one with all the beauty, though. Like in fact, and that's in nature. You see that in nature. You see that in, and the more you understand that, that's when you actually start to have peace. Is when. And I think a lot of people push away the horror.
Right.
And that creates dysfunction.
Yeah, it's
like,
easier to do that, honestly, right?
Well, people think it's easier in the short term.
in the short term.
Yeah, but really, I think in the long term, to have a healthy like consciousness, you have to embrace it actually, like, and then what do? You know, like
Right.
embrace what it is, accept it, and then do something about it, and then fight it, but accept it first and then fight it. So, but like even now, these new liberal kids, because when I was younger, I was the only true but now it's like cool to be woke, right?
Right.
The woke
right.
movement.
The woke movement, right.
And yes, it's great. I think it's great it's happening, but because it's cool, it can be a little problematic.
Well, then because it's cool, then people just say it to say it.
Yeah.
Right. Like it loses its meaning.
And but it's also total antagonism against, intolerance, right?
Yeah.
So it's a total intolerance of intolerance,
Yeah.
right? But in fact, I think the real way to change things is to be totally tolerant of intolerance, and then from there, that's when you fix things. So, because I've had conversations with fucking racist, anti-Semites, white supremacists, and actually made them change their minds.
On the spot?
No, not on the spot, but I don't instantly hate them.
Right.
You know what I mean? I try to go into their minds, understand where they're coming from.
Right.
Then from their own ideological framework, break down certain conceptions they have.
I see.
And then, but they take it in because I am listening to them. I'm with them, with the intolerant.
Right.
And then showing them the truth through
rather
them.
than being combative.
Yeah, because that's not how it works. And that's what I thought it was when I was younger. Well, I didn't know what the fuck was going on, but I had to go through this whole journey to realize how to actually change people's minds.
Right.
But all of these young kids, they're not changing anyone's mind. In fact, all they're doing, they're making it stronger. The tribalism. They're increasing tribalism.
Right.
Which is not the goal. It doesn't make any sense. It's so counterproductive to
just polarize like
their
that.
agenda, because the agenda is for everyone to love each other, right? That's what ultimately that's the agenda, but it's not happening when you do that. When you hate racists, that's not gonna change a racist, you know?
Right. If anything, sometimes it fuels it more.
Yeah, it fuels it more.
It's fighting fire with fire. It's not gonna get any better. The hate is never, I don't know, that's the one thing I've sort of trying to bring into my life more, is just like love will always win. Always. And I've been I still catch myself. I always catch myself. And like, you know, you're on the subway and somebody bumps into you and you just want to like, you know, like, F this guy, and you start like getting pissed off. It's just like, whoa, man, no need to get worked up at all. Just take a step back and be like, whatever. Because, you know, there's so many people on a day-to-day when you commute in a big city that will just piss you off.
Right.
Piss you off every day. And I really became aware of that lately, that it was just getting the best of me. Or even just going out, right?
Yeah.
Going out at a bar.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I had some friends even growing up that it's just like, you know, somebody would look at you wrong. Like, yo, I don't like the way that guy's looking at me. Like, I don't like his eyebrows. I want to knock him out. Something stupid like that.
Yeah.
It just gets the best of you. You let that person, like, get inside and just ruin you almost. And it's so silly. So silly. And, you know, I've had moments like that and just totally been aware of it and just take a step back and realize, like, whoa, no one needs to work yourself up and just totally just chill the hell out.
In my crazy mind, that's a privilege we have.
Yo, totally.
Because if we lived in the woods near, you know, if we lived in Vermont all our lives and we were super like in touch with nature and at peace with ourselves, and then that's good and all, you know? Mm-hmm. But if you can't test it, I feel like the subway system makes us test what we think we know.
It is. Right.
And to really get deeper into what we think we know.
Right.
But if we're always in the woods, like, I mean, you know, that's easy.
Yeah, I don't know. Solitude.
It's easy to, be at one with everything when you're just enjoying yourself in the woods all the time and relaxing with a cup of, like, tea and fucking, you know, in your garden and dog and, you know, no, whatever, right?
Right.
But the train and all of its intolerance, it tests the theories. Yeah. As an academic, I think it's, or I was an academic, I think it's a privilege we have.
Yeah, the subway is totally, I feel like riding that every day has made me more of a tolerant person. At first it wasn't. At first it was like, oh, but now it's just like, oh, that's just the way it is. Sometimes people just smell like piss. Sometimes people just, you know, will have no concept of personal space, and you're standing like a sardine, like everybody else, and you just get used to it. But people who don't live in this area, they're just like, oh my God, how do you do this? Or like, they're afraid of it. But for me, it's just like, oh, whatever. That's just what it is. I gotta get from here to work and work to back home, and this is the easiest way for me to get there, and whatever. That's it. That's all I do now. I kind of just put my headphones on, listen to my music, and I don't care if some stinky dude's like right next to me. It's gonna suck, but I'm gonna get off in 5 minutes, and I'm gonna totally forget about it in like a couple hours at work. That's it.
I've been actually meditating on the train.
Really?
Yeah. So generally, I use this bracelet. Mm-hmm. I know there's 20 beads rotation. Mm-hmm. And I do 40 deep breaths. Okay. And I make it subtle so people don't notice. Right. And I do Wim Hof breathing technique.
Okay. I'm not familiar with it, actually.
Yeah, this is a guy. He's a Danish. I think he's Danish. I don't want to fuck that up, but right. He created this breathing technique where you do 3 rounds of 40 deep breaths, exhale, hold as long as you can. Okay. Inhale 15 seconds. Round 2, same thing. So 3 rounds. And basically, it's so intense that there's physiological things are occurring. You're basically like hyperventilating. You're like almost simulating a panic attack.
Okay.
But your mind is so calm.
Right.
And it centers you even without as much mental effort. You let the physical nature of it center your mental energies without as much work as straight meditation.
Okay.
Because it could take like, for me, I mean, it'll still take like, 10 minutes for me to really start silence.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, but Wim Hof is sort of kind of gets you there faster, which is sort of cool. But I do that every time I'm commuting, and like I have to wait 15 minutes, whatever. It's like suddenly it feels like 1 minute. The time reduces, and then if it's really crazy, and if it's like absurd, and everyone's angry and crazy, I'll fucking close my eyes and I'll meditate like this. I'll be like, oh, and then fucking, I swear to God, the environment around me changes. People calm down, people become more conscientious, because
do they calm down, or are they just terrified that you're making these weird noises?
But that's part of it. That's part of it. It's so terrifying. It's so confusing and terrifying. But I don't look like a crazy person.
Well,
right? I look like a functioning.
Do you? No, I'm messing with you.
No. But and I think people see that, they're like, okay, so he's obviously not insane. He looks to be a functioning person in society, but he's still doing that.
Right.
And my eyes are closed, and I'm making myself extra vulnerable, doing something that is potentially super humiliating.
That's totally vulnerable, right?
And it just kind of stops everyone in their insanity, especially when it's really crazy.
Right.
I did it once, like a baby was like fucking freaking out, crying like crazy, and everyone's getting pissed, and it was busy as fuck, and then I just started doing it, and I swear the baby just stopped. Like, it happened really fast.
Really?
I think the baby was staring at me,
probably
confused.
Probably never seen anything like it.
Yeah, and it just stopped the baby, but it worked. I mean, it could all be psychology, game theory,
right?
But it still works. It still makes everyone present. Stop for a second. I've been doing like public displays of this and noticing the results.
Yeah.
He's Dutch. Yeah, okay.
He's Dutch, okay.
But I'll be on this balcony when the weather's good.
Mm-hmm.
And there's rush hour traffic, and people are just all morning honk, 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 because this intersection's terrible. So I started doing a practice of meditating hardcore with these motions, like really fucking intense. My shaved head, being Asian, right, on the fucking, but I'm dressed secular, got incense going. I'm just doing this, and I can hear the honking, loud, and then it fucking stops. I can hear the honking stopping.
Really?
Because, just think about it. Like, you're just like, fucking traffic, god damn it, and then you're like, what the fuck what is that? What? It just stops you.
Just take their attention off of it almost.
Yeah. And it just makes them suddenly present for a second, like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And now they're not worried about they're like, what is up with that guy?
Yeah. They're like in the moment for a second.
Right.
So I make like a joke, a display of my mockery of myself, like and there's an element of that. Like, I actually want to make myself look as crazy and stupid and vulnerable as possible, but it stops everybody. I've been doing this in public places, like at parks, and it's an experiment I've been doing actually where, and the more people get comfortable with it,
right,
like one time this whole group of French people surrounded me on each side while I was on the band. I was like, I can't believe that's happening. Like, I can't believe they got that comfortable. They were very relaxed. And I have this feeling that it has this effect. It resonates out. Mm-hmm. And they feel I'm speaking in terms of woo. The energy is so different that it's affecting everyone around me. If I talk in terms of just psychology, it's just so jarring. It takes people out. But that is the point. That is what I'm trying to do. Like, that is what meditation is, like taking yourself out of the entropy of reality,
right,
or social reality.
I feel like, you're also like you said, you're bringing people present, especially the whole morning commute thing, right? Because half the time from personal experience, and also I'm sure most people are like this, on their morning commutes, like, you're an autopilot. You're not really thinking about, anything super serious at all. Your brain's still kind of waking up. You can get out of bed, function, and, like, get on the train, but, like, you're not really thinking about your day, at least from my perspective, until I get to work sometimes. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like I'm on autopilot. I'm like just whatever, cruising to work. So yeah, you're really bringing people out of that when they see something like, somebody meditating on a train or in a public display like that. Yeah.
And honestly, like, if I'm just like a normal ass person, that's not something I would have come up with. It was during my reintegration period where I started to try this kind of shit. Right. So I did it in Korea in a very public area. Yeah. And because I'm in Korea, I don't give a fuck, no one knows me. And I just came off the ayahuasca, right. I did tons of shrooms, and so now I'm just gonna it just felt right. Yeah. So I started doing it, but if I was dead ass, if I hadn't done any of those stuff, and I was just going through everyday life for a long period of time, I don't think I would have had the gumption, the gall to even attempt such a thing.
I don't.
Yeah,
that's not for me.
But it was because of my integration period that I was like, I tested it, I tried it, and I saw incredible results. And I'm like, okay, there's something here.
Right.
Like public wild displays of meditation. Because I'll see, like, every so often I'll notice, like, white people, like, doing this, sitting there, this. I'm like, okay, I get it. They're trying to keep it subtle. I'm like, why are we keeping it subtle? I mean, if your eyes are closed, right? If you don't see the other, what's stopping you from balling out? Your ego.
Totally.
Yeah, humiliation.
Yeah. Right.
Vulnerability.
Totally.
So when you go all out, it's like, especially if your eyes are closed. If your eyes are open, that's a different thing. It's a totally different thing.
Right.
Then it's like you're feeding your ego again.
Right, because then you're looking at who's looking at you.
Yeah, but if you remove that out of the equation, and I that's another thing. When I get out, when I finish, I just look around me and I fucking get the fuck out of there. Like, I don't look around at the people. I don't stare at the only thing I know is based on sound.
Right.
And because again, I'm not trying to entertain anyone. I'm not trying to entertain. I'm not trying to get anything out of it.
That's not your intention.
From them, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how you keep it pure. You just gotta keep your eyes closed, buck wild, and then fucking disappear. Like it almost never happened. Like it was a dream,
Shall we hear about the rebirth?
Oh, yeah. You want to dive into that?
Actually,
we're past 1 hour mark.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
I think we'll stop for now.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm gonna even cut it before this part.
Yeah.
Because we went way past an hour.
Did we get enough, though?
We went way past an hour.
You sure?
Oh, no, we're gonna... I want you to be a recurring guest.
Oh, okay. But I feel like we didn't even, I don't know. Did we give enough context to, we were all over the place, weren't we?
All over.
But is that how you want it to be? Do you want, a little bit more, structure? I don't mind talking about something else.
No structure.
No structure?
No, you're gonna come back again and again.
Yeah.
Who needs structure when you got friends like these, right? No, but for real, we're gonna talk with Frank again and get a little more details about his journey in talking to plants and how that came about. But yeah, I love how it went, and I'm so excited to have him back. He's coming back pretty soon, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. So until next time, be good on your journeys, be good to yourselves, and love is all is love. Take care.